Hello, my name is Gimeno. I teach English at the Department of Applied Linguistics, Departamento de Lingüística Aplicada, at the School of Design Engineering. Today we're going to talk about writing a letter of request. For example, if you're thinking of applying for an Erasmus grant, then naturally you'll have to get in touch with the host university, and perhaps you'll even want to write a letter to them requesting for information. So let's see how to lay out the information and how to go about writing this letter. First of all, we have to include the sender's address. Okay, so that would be our address. We have to place this on the top left-hand corner of the letter, as you can see here, where the arrow is, and also the date. We have to specify the date. The date would normally go underneath the sender's address towards the right of the letter. The standard opening for a letter is Dear. When we don't know the name of the person that we're addressing the letter to, then the standard form is to use Dear Sir or Dear Madam. Note here the use of the verb to address. We address a letter to somebody. When we do know the name of the person we are addressing the letter to, then we use these formulas. For example, Dear Mr. Perry, if the person we are addressing is a man. Dear Mrs. Jackson, Dear Miss Smith. As you know, in the case of a married woman, Mrs. In the case of a single woman, Miss. However, nowadays it's common practice to use the formula Ms, M-S. This way we don't have to specify whether the person is married or single. Also here, note the use of the comma after the name of the person we are addressing, or here after the formulas Dear Sir, Dear Madam. The following paragraph should include an introduction. We have to introduce ourselves, giving as much information as possible, but as briefly as possible. For example, we can say, I am a third-year student of mechanical engineering at the Universidad Politécnica de Valencia, Spain, and I understand that my university has a bilateral agreement with your university, or a student exchange agreement with your university, or we can specify the name of the university. Note here that I haven't translated the name of this university. Normally, we'd keep the name of the university in Spanish or Valencian, whichever formula you wish to use. Next, we would have to clearly state the reason for writing the letter. For example, here we can use several formulas, one of which is I am writing to you because, I write to you because, or the reason for my writing is because. There are several formulas. This is just one. As you can see here, I am writing to you because I am interested in a degree offered at your institution. I have been looking at the Tartu University website and have found a lot of relevant information. However, I would be very grateful if you could give me some further details. As you can see here, I've put the pronoun in brackets because it's not necessarily to repeat the pronoun. Okay, we have the I have been looking here, and we don't have to therefore repeat the pronoun. And I have found and have found. Okay, here note the use of I would be very grateful. To be very grateful is a polite way of saying that you would appreciate if somebody could do something for you. And because this is a letter of request, then we are going to ask them to do something for us. We're going to ask them probably to send us something or provide us with more information. Then we would have to move on to making the actual request. When we make a request, we have to be clear, concise, and polite. For example, another formula, as I just said, we can use "I would be very grateful." Another formula is also, "Could you please," as you can see here, "could you please tell me if your university offers courses in English? I would also like to know whether I can validate my subjects. Therefore, I would appreciate it." Here's another way of being polite and asking for information. "I would appreciate it if you could send me a copy of the programs corresponding to the following subjects in the mechanical engineering course. For example, international marketing, materials resistance, heat transmission, mechanical fluid engineering." Okay, so here, of course, this is an example which you would have to adapt to your own situation. Now, perhaps we want to make several requests, not just one. In this case, we'd have to use a connector to link both requests. One formula, for example, is "in addition," as you can see here, "in addition, I would like to know if there is an accommodation office at your university and whether you have on-campus halls of residence. Lastly, could you please send me an accommodation application form to the address above." Lastly, indicating that we are now closing the paragraph which refers to a request. Following our requests, we have to thank and close the letter. So one of the formulas that we can use in thanking is "thanking you in advance" or "thanking you for your help." As you can see here, this would be the line directly above the closing remarks. Okay? Suitable closing remarks could also be "I look forward to hearing from you," "I look forward to receiving the information." Then, signing off the letter also relates to the way in which we started the letter, in which we opened the letter at the beginning. For example, if the letter started "Dear Sir" or "Dear Madam," then we have to use an ending which is "Yours faithfully." If the start was "Dear Mr. Smith" or "Mrs. Smith," that is, using the surname of the person we are addressing the letter to, then we have to end our letter saying "Yours sincerely." And also, as you can see here, a comma afterwards, always a comma. If, however, we have a more informal relationship and we are in some ways acquainted with the person that we are addressing our letter to, even though it's a formal situation, and we start our letter with a first name, "Dear Peter," "Dear Mary," then we can use more informal formulas to sign off, such as "regards, comma, best regards, best wishes," or "warm regards." This would be the general layout of the letter, set out in paragraphs, and then at the bottom, your name and signature. Now, to end, these are a number of sites, websites that I think might be useful for you. So if you want to write them down and browse through them, I think you'll find them interesting. Okay then, that's all from me for now. Thank you.